My name is Abby Rifkin, and I'm here on behalf of the Broward County Women Lawyers Association. Today, it's my real honor and privilege to be asked to interview Kimberly Gilmour, who is 2021's recipient of the Broward County Bar Association's Women Leaders in the Law Award. When you think about women leaders in the law, you think about Kim Gilmour, and we're so thrilled to have her here answering questions, letting you know who she is and why she is the perfect person to be recognized as the Broward County Bar Association Women Leaders in the Law.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Kim. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. You know what, Kim? I've known you for a really long time. And in researching our discussion today, I mean, there are things about you I didn't know. I didn't know that you received so many awards in your career. I didn't know how many things you've done for our community, for our regular community, our legal community. And so I really want to get to how you came into this. How did you become a lawyer? Tell us about the way it was growing up and what made you decide you wanted to be a lawyer.
I actually had a very fortunate, happy childhood. Was raised by both my mom and dad, grew up originally in New York, and my father was a harness horse driver. So we spent half the year in New York and then half the year in North Carolina. So I lived in North Carolina when before the Civil Rights Acts. And
Wow.
So I went to school in an all-white school in North Carolina, and then went to a very diverse school in Monticello, New York. And from a very early stage, my parents had a very good friend who was a family attorney. He did criminal defense work, which I don't do any and never wanted to, but he was so impressionist and so intelligent that I grew up thinking, I want to be just like him. I want to be a lawyer. So from middle school, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. And so I did it.
So you wanted to be a lawyer from the time you were young. Were there any obstacles that you had to overcome to get on this path to becoming a lawyer?
When I was young, believe it or not, I was very shy and not outspoken or anything, not like I've developed as an attorney. So overcoming my fears was a big obstacle, but something that I worked at and made myself become involved in high school and then in college, in activities, in associations, in clubs. And probably in high school, I really came out of my shell, so to speak, and started to really be authoritative, be in charge, knew what I wanted, made decisions, and did a lot more speaking and got involved in a lot of clubs and organizations. And so that certainly helped me then to decide to go to college and then go right to law school right out of college.
What did you do in college? What was your major in college, and how did it help you in what you're doing now?
Typical back then anyway was I was a double major, history and political science.
Mm-hmm.
And so took a lot of courses where you would do a lot of writing, a lot of thesis papers, and also do a lot of speaking classes where you did a lot of debating and so forth. And so that certainly helped me, and being on the debate team made a big difference in college and then on to law school.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to Nova University, now it's NSU, here in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a great opportunity for me and had a great experience, met a lot of great people, a lot who are still in Broward County and the surrounding, Tri-County area that are still practicing.
When I went to law school, a third of our class was women coming right out of college. And there were a great many women who were going back to law school as a second career. How did law school itself impact you in deciding where you wanted to be, the legal career that you chose?
Well, my class, I think, was pretty well balanced, 50-50 male and female, but there were a lot more. And on the other hand, I took family law, or probably started to take family law, and within a couple of weeks knew I hated it. And so I got out of that class and went into administrative law class. So it really made me realize that litigation was more the area I wanted to focus on as opposed to the transactional work.
What kind of things did you do in law school in order to further your career in litigation, besides that class that you're talking about?
As soon as I could, I found clerking positions. And so I clerked for positions for firms that did litigation. And I worked for like a solo practitioner 1 year. And then during the school year, I also did clerking as well as the summertime. But I always made sure, like I did it for an insurance defense work firm. And that just helped me again to get a better idea and be exposed to attorneys that did trial work and litigation. And it just made it firm up in my mind that this was the area and the practice for me.
You graduated from law school a couple of years after I did. How hard was it for you to find a job doing what you wanted to do? Because when I came out of law school, I was an intern at the state attorney's office. I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor, so that was my career path. But I know a lot of the women that I went to law school with, especially some of the women who were using this as a second career, were having a hard time finding a job. Did you have a similar experience?
Not really, but remember, I graduated or started practicing in '85, and back then there were only 7 law schools in Florida. Now I think there's 13, so it's almost doubled. But one of the things that did help me was the firm that I was clerking for was an insurance defense firm, and they had offered me a job. And then shortly after I started, only a couple of weeks, they lost a major insurance company, and so they had to let me go. But the senior partner was very helpful in helping me find a job. And at that time, he suggested that I send my resume and contact Norman Tripp at Tripp Scott, because they were just right across the street. This is before Tripp Scott moved downtown. Right. And so I had an interview. I had several interviews, but there was a process, but I got the job at Tripp Scott. So I was very fortunate.
So that takes me to my next question. How did being a woman impact your experience as a young lawyer?
First of all, let me say that it was a great opportunity, and Tripp Scott gave me a great opportunity to learn a lot after law school. And so I was exposed because I was the only associate. The other attorneys were all partners. I did everything from family law divorce case. I did real estate closings. And they were the ones, Norman Tripp in particular, who exposed me to employment law, because I'd never taken any class in law school about employment law. And I sort of learned on the job. And Norman put me in touch with a good friend of his, an attorney by the name of Arch Stokes. And Arch was my mentor, and all Arch did was employment law. And he taught me a lot. And I attribute that to Tripp Scott and to Norman Tripp to giving me that opportunity. So the fact that it was a very diverse practice and could pick and choose and then say, after my first divorce case, guys, I'm not doing divorce anymore. I can't handle these people. But I like employment and I want to do more and expand and, do it and grow it as a practice area for the firm, which I did along with other attorneys in the firm. So in that regard, it was great. And that's why I also believe the importance of mentoring, and I still do that today. But as far as, things that happened when I first started practicing, I can remember taking a deposition early on in my career, and there were 2 defendants, and one of the attorneys was much older, much more experienced than I was. And when I tell you that he probably objected to about 80% of my questions, and I got to the point in my head where I'm like, I can't be this dumb. I can't be this bad, and that I can't ask a question that there isn't an objection. Right. And, like sometimes he would say objection form. So finally I was like, what's wrong with the form? And he looked at me and I said, tell me what's wrong with the form and I'll correct my question. And finally, he sort of stopped making the objections, but he also went so far as to call me little lady. And I had just had it, and I lost my cool in the deposition. And I'm sure if you got the transcript, it would be there. And I said, my name is not little lady. You may call me Kim, you may call me Kimberly, or you may call me Miss Gilmour, but do not ever call me little lady again. And he sort of was shocked that I was, came at him sort of like that. And then afterwards, I will say this, the other attorney said to me, you did a fine job in the deposition. Most of his objections were totally inappropriate. He was just trying to get to you. And for a while he was, but then you stood up for yourself and you did a fine job. And that made me really feel good. And I knew that I can do this. But, comments like that, when you're first starting out and you're by yourself, are very demeaning, and you start to, doubt yourself. And that was probably the milder comments sometimes that I heard from attorneys, or sometimes even from, judges would make comments about things that they probably shouldn't have.
Well, that brings me to judges. I mean, back when we started, the bulk of the judges were men, and they were older men. And I remember being called honey quite a few times. I remember a judge ordering me to give him my married name because he kept calling me Mrs. What about you? Did you have experiences that shaped how you practice law?
Yes, I mean, there were times where comments would be made by a judge using being like too familiar with me or with other female attorneys, but yet men were like Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, but yet I was Kim, or, honey or sweetie. And that seemed to me, that sent a message, especially in a trial. I didn't like things like that, but you're not going to say something to the judge in the trial. But if I was in chambers in a hearing and all of a sudden a comment was made, I might just sort of say, oh, please, that's okay, you can call me Kim, sort of trying to make the point that my name is not honey or sweetie, please call me by my first name, or something along those lines. But again, you don't want to alienate the judge because he is in charge.
Right.
But there were times where the comments were, certain judges always wear a dress because the judges were always looking at your legs and things like that. And it was uncomfortable. Or you knew that, oh, I want to make sure that I'm not the first attorney to go into this judge's chambers because comments may be made, or, where his eyes are. And it just was very uncomfortable.
Being a woman, did that impact your ability at all in moving up through the ranks within either private practice or to your current position? Or were there any obstacles in your way to getting to the place where you wanted to be as a lawyer?
Abby, I think if anything, it made me more aware and also work harder. And that I, graduated law school and passed the bar and got my law degree just like anybody else. Right. And this was what I really wanted. And I really liked being a lawyer and practicing law. So I wasn't going to be discouraged. I was just going to find a way around and make sure that, like I said, I learned employment law, and I took advantage of opportunities that were there for me, or that I wanted to make an opportunity to, like I said, expand and say, I'm going to do this area, or we're going to, kind of target these particular clients, or this helps the firm to shine better in the community when we do these things. And I will say that I had a lot of opportunity in that regard early on in my career, and that did help a lot. And so just being well prepared is a big key too. And I always probably over prepared. I might practice and prepare for my deposition for 3 hours, and the deposition was only an hour, but I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was talking about, and I knew the facts, and I knew what the law was to support my positions.
Great. Back in the 80s when we were starting, there was a commercial about, it was a woman, and she was singing about she can bring home the bacon, she can fry it up in a pan, and do anything. And there were a lot of us who had a hard time trying to be everything, and not being able to do everything was frustrating. Mm-hmm. Did you have that kind of experience, and how did you balance your life?
At Tripp Scott, a little over 7 years when I was made a partner, and shortly after that, my daughter was born. Mm-hmm. And so things did change for me when my daughter was born. Again, the Family Medical Leave Act had just been enacted in 92, so it didn't help me at all, but that was okay. But again, I will say the firm was very helpful for me because I took some time off. And then if there were times that I might have to have my daughter in her little stroller in my office, but I try to do that as little as possible. But it is hard when you have a small child. And in the beginning, my daughter had a lot of health issues. So I was constantly taking her to the doctor and, needing time off and things of that nature. And then as she got older, it got a little bit better. But in the back of my mind, it was always, I'm, missing out on some things. I mean, I tried not to miss out on much. But I remember one time my daughter, she was probably about 3, maybe 4 years old. And she said something to me about, Mommy, you're always working. And I said, oh, Mommy has to go to work and, but I'm here with you and, I'm here on the weekends. And she said, well, tell your bosses that you need to stay home and be with me. And I thought, I am the boss. That's not a good thing. But that was my guilt, and eventually, though, when my daughter was in starting middle school, I decided that it was time that I needed to spend more time and be home more. And so then in 2000 is when I talked to the partners at Tripp Scott and said, I need to start my own firm. I need to leave. I need to be more time with my daughter. And so that's when I started. And so then I had a lot more flexibility. I spent less time working, and certainly it would impact my income, but that was my choice. And I to this day, I never regret it. And I always say my claim to fame is my daughter, and she's 28 now.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever feel that somehow the life balance that you had to work out somehow slowed you down?
Sure.
For some women, it does. It did with me. So did it, and how did you deal with it?
It did, in the fact that once I became a mom, I didn't do as much traveling as I had done in the past. And so that impacted the clientele and the cases that I had. And it impacted, the flexibility that I had, when I didn't have a child at home and so forth. So in that regard, yes. Or if I had to leave, I wanted to leave there was something going on in my daughter's school.
Sure.
I had to be very careful. Or like I said, there were things that I did miss, and, you can never go back and get them back again. And so that's why there are some regrets I have about that. Or, all of a sudden, back in the day, so to speak, there was all those billable hours, which I don't have to worry about now, but, I'm not going to be able to take a couple of days off like I thought because my billing rate is down, or I've got to get my billables up, or, there's a negative implication in that regard.
I know you're really active in the community, and I also know that you're active in the legal community. Can you tell us a little bit about things that you're involved in that fulfill you in this community?
Okay, great question. Yes, and again, it attributed to my daughter. I was on the board of Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies for like 25 years. And
Wow.
It's an organization that is involved in eradicating infant mortality and helping moms and their babies for the first year of their lives, and also dealing with families through advocacy and services and so forth. And so I got involved when my daughter was probably like 2 years old, and was a volunteer originally, and then was on the board and served in every board position, including president. And to this day, I was on an advisory board until just about a year ago. And I believe, strongly in that organization. And whenever I can help out, they do various fundraisers and events for, little kids and single, not necessarily, but moms and babies and so forth. So I'm still very involved. Their executive director, Linda Sheehan, and I are very good friends. And again, I attribute it because I was a mom and I wanted to help an organization that was involved with moms and babies and so forth. And then throughout the years, I've been involved with, like my daughter's school and the PTO, things of that nature. I was very involved when she was in soccer, PAL soccer and Plantation. I was an assistant coach, don't know anything about soccer, but I learned. And, volunteering to things like that just made me feel good about myself and who I was, and giving back to the community. And, a lot of times it's not what you get, it's what you give. And I still believe that to this day. And then, legally, professionally,
Yeah.
I've always been involved in the volunteer bar associations, from the Broward County Bar to the women lawyers. I mean, I was a past president in 92, 93. That was a big year for me, 92. Partner, my daughter, president of the Broward County Women Lawyers.
Wow.
But then eventually I was on the board of the Broward County Bar Association. And I just think it's important to give back, but how important those associations are, because you get to know your colleagues and they become your friends. And there's many people, especially women, that are still, I consider personal friends that I served on the boards with, and that, we still get together, forget about COVID, but
Yeah.
Zooming now, but, are still very good friends of mine. And I thank that all to the Broward County Bar, the Broward County Women Lawyers. And then for a while there, I was even involved in some committees on the Florida Bar. And recently I'm on 2 ad hoc committees for the Southern District of Florida Federal Court.
Wow. When do you sleep?
Well, sometimes you have to say no, but again, I enjoy things like that. And especially the committees now are important because, being a solo, you don't have anybody else sometimes to bounce things off or to talk to people. So if you don't have a good networking and involved in things, I can understand why mental health issues are prevalent in our society, and how it's becoming a bigger issue when people are alone and don't have somebody to talk to or to be with.
When did you go solo, and when did you make that decision? How did you, take that leap? It's scary.
It is scary. And I went solo in 2000, and I had started to think about it because I needed to spend more time with my daughter. And so finally I thought, I need to do this sooner than later. And so I went to a couple of the partners, Norman Tripp first, and then I talked to Dennis Smith, and just said that I had decided that I wanted to spend more time with my daughter and that I was going to go on my own. And I wasn't real prepared, I'll be honest with you, because I didn't take any clients with me. And I just opened up and, but through contacts and letting people know that I was on my own, I started to get clients and started to get business. First couple of years were a little slow, and, thank goodness for a little extra cash on hand and credit cards. But eventually everything works out. I'm a firm believer that when a door gets closed, a window opens and everything will work out.
So you've had this amazing career, and you took the leap. What do you say to women who are following in your footsteps now? What do you say to them? How do they succeed like you did?
I do believe that if you can work for a firm as opposed to going out on your own, it is a better opportunity, because you can learn from other people in the firm, and you have other people in the firm to help you and assist you. And like I said, I was very fortunate at Tripp Scott to be able to learn so many different areas and try different avenues and, cases and so forth. So if you can work for a firm, that's a great opportunity, and get a little bit of experience, because too many times now I hear people say, oh, I practice door law. Anything that comes through the door, I handle. And that's not good for anybody, for the attorney, for the practice, for the public, for the clients. But if they really are adamant, and, I give them a lot of credit to go out from law school right into solo practice, is become involved in the Bar Association. And as you probably know, Abby, the Broward County Bar Association has a great mentor program. And I've been a mentor for many years. And recently they did a Zoom mentoring meeting with mentors and mentees. And I met a young woman, an attorney, solo, and we sort of connected. She reached out to me. And so occasionally she'll contact me with a question or an issue or a suggestion. And it's just nice to be able to help her, because I believe that my helping another attorney doesn't take something away from me or harm me in any
Right.
way, but it benefits that attorney, but also it benefits our practice. And so I'm a strong
Right.
believer in mentorship. And I had a great mentor in Art Stokes out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I want to pay it forward. So I would just say, to attorneys coming out that, work hard. And if you can get in with a firm to get the experience, or, the state attorney's office or the public defenders, depending on what you want to do, it's certainly, in my opinion, a better way to go than trying to learn everything on your own. But use the volunteer bar associations to get help. And most importantly, be happy.
Well,
life
what
is
makes
too
you
short.
happy? What makes you happy? What do you do in your spare time to make you happy? That isn't law related, that isn't public service related.
Well, I like sports, so I'm big into sports. My daughter's a graduate of the University of Central Florida, so I got involved in night football. And we were there following them a couple of years ago when they were undefeated and they won the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. We went to the Peach Bowl together and had an absolute fantastic time. And I like the Dolphins, obviously, and I'm a Florida Panther hockey fan. I'm not too much into baseball, although I played softball in high school. But so I like all sports. I like NASCAR racing as well. And I like being with people. Like before all this pandemic and everything, I was very social as far as having friends come to my home, and I like to entertain or meeting friends out. And I like music. I'm kind of an eclectic person, but I feel life is too short. You got to be happy. And I heard one time that everything you need to know, you learned in kindergarten, and kindergartners laugh like 500 times a day. And I thought, I need to go back to kindergarten and just laugh and be a happy person. But I think everybody needs to just have fun and be happy.
Well, let me ask you this. You talk about your daughter a lot, and that's great. It really is. It's very apparent how close you are. How has your being a lawyer affected your relationship with your daughter now as an adult, not as a child, but as an adult?
Great question. My daughter, as I said, UCF double major, and she actually was thinking about going to law school, and I totally discouraged it. And I said, there's too many attorneys. I mean, there's over 110,000 members of the Florida bar right now.
Right.
And so I said to her, unless you're going to eat, drink, and sleep law school and then get a job, don't do it, because there's too many attorneys out there. And she was like kind of taken back. And she tells people that now, that I discouraged her, and people are like really shocked. But I just don't think that it was, and she's a fabulous writer, and she's a great speaker. She does a lot of seminars and presentations where she works now for Noble International. But I just discouraged that. But she lives in Orlando, and we just don't see each other as often as we would like. But we talk on the phone or we text. I learned to text because of my daughter. But it's nice because it's more, our relationship is now developing into two adults and two women that can talk about experiences. And she has a new home and just got a dog. So I have a grand dog.
No, it's a good thing.
So yes, all good things, all good things.
So as we wrap up, tell us one fun fact about you that nobody knows.
Probably Kimmy, they call me Kimmy Christmas. I love the holidays. And I decorate my house to the absolute max, inside, outside, front and back. I have a big pool in my backyard. I decorate all in the back for me. I decorate the front for the people that drive by, but I love Christmas. I love people coming and having cocktail parties and seeing all my decorations and just getting together. So I would probably say that, that I'm known as Kimmy Christmas.
Well, Kimmy Christmas, it was great talking to you. Great seeing you. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Thank you for everything you do for the Broward legal community. And congratulations on your award.
Thank you, Abby. I appreciate it. I'm very overwhelmed and humbled by this. And thank you for your time today talking with me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Abby.